lit. You can tell my chakras is lit. Alright, you can tell my chakras is lit. I'm pulling at my cover like my lip. Alright, you can tell my chakras is lit. You know, you can tell my chakras is lit. You can tell my chakras is lit. You know, I'm pulling at my cover like my lip. You can tell my chakras is lit. Pulling at my cover like my lip. And I keep a rocket in the clip. Falling in the cockpit with your bitch. Alright, we don't put no narcotics on the strip. You know, just to make a profit in this bitch. You don't want no drama in this bitch. We'll pull up on your mama with the stick. Yeah, I'm on that fighting shit. So how like you just took a bike in it. I'm good for you just like a vitamin. Hit up the parliament, fuck something like it. Niggas is selfish shit, ain't hard. Nigga, I'm selfish just like God. To get my wings back, I came down to earth. He told me Exodus is your job. I'm a lesson to all these laws. Get the universal more balance. Off them green bars, no cabbage. I get high, I think I know magic. Fuck with me, you know it's no tacking. It's a pilot in this bitch. You can tell my chakras is lit. You can tell my chakras is lit. You can tell my chakras is lit. Alright, you can tell my chakras is lit. I'm pulling at my cover like my lip. Alright, you can tell my chakras is lit. You know, you can tell my chakras is lit. You can tell my chakras is lit. You know, I'm pulling at my cover like my lip. Flight boss came down, niggas sneak this. Flight boss, step outside, do a 3-6. Got a unit full of those G's and I ain't meet it. Everything I do is B.I.G. and I ain't P. Diddy. My chakras never started from the boot, you know. And now I see my chakras through the roof. The fix come out at night, the new Houdini, you know. I'm bobbing where there isn't Kundalini. Knock that off, it's a cop in that car, yeah. We don't stop for the law, got a spot on the stars, yeah. I wouldn't even be on earth, God didn't want to put me to work. This rap game is so we can hurt, till I see his colors like neon surge on you big homies, what's peons first? Acting like what ain't you, when shit gets sour like grapefruits, they start acting like take two. I ain't going nowhere but you take me, and you ain't going nowhere but hope I take you. I'm a goddess, do some rims on my Bacaba, fly ball. You can tell my chakras is lit. You can tell my chakras is lit. Alright, you can tell my chakras is lit. I'm pulling at my cover like my lip. Alright, you can tell my chakras is lit. You know, you can tell my chakras is lit. You can tell my chakras is lit. You know, I'm pulling at my cover like my lip.
For that, I'm gonna fly around that spaceship. I'm flying at macabre like my whip, like my whip, like my whip. Stop, like my whip. I'm flying at macabre like my whip, like my whip. Your first body is your mind, so we're gonna help everybody understand, the body YEHOWAAH and the ring, the real power of the ring at 13. You know what I'm saying? Because this is energies that if you know what's inside yourself, you could point in that direction and know it goes beyond the expansion of what you could be aware of. But that essence still will come from that space. And everybody still got that esoteric energy for within their own spiritual space, their spirit, their soul. And then for the most part, we create a layer around that. Mentality, awareness. Thank you so much for the Cashapp seller. We create awareness around that and things of that nature. And then for the most part, it condense and become our characteristics and our traits. So when you want to look at things in its actuality, in its full context, right, this also help you understand the knowledge that was bestowed over here. And also even Neolin teachings and shit like that. But even beyond that, for people can understand the motherboard or the matrix, and this area being the heart. But the heart is the extension of the nerve system, and the nerve system wire everything to let you know where each geographical location externally represent internally. So our internal representations and our body externally represent the form that we are in, what is the great chief spirit YEHOWAAH, in the body that we are in, and in the world that it's in amongst the great spirit and all the multiple creatures there at the happy hunting ground, along with the goddamn holy ones and stuff like that. Now, a lot of y'all may not like those terms, but you can consider what may be a happy grounds for you But if it got synchronicity and relatability behind it that could align with others, then you could be neighbors amongst. And that's what make you a holy one and stuff like that, where you're able to carve out your own lawn and it's something that's relatable to everyone. And then you're going to start to realize, well, everybody's backyard connected together is the form of the happy hunting ground. Anyway, you know what I'm saying? Where we're creating happy fruits, happy animals, not beastly natures, negative fruits, negative animals, and scavengers and shit. You know what I'm saying? And then we create a beautiful world based upon having a perfect thinking that's still subjective and trying to perfect imperfections from this individual that we are in that's greater than you to, you know, help carve out well amongst beings that they are in to bring the great spirit into the world. So this is what you need to understand too. The matrix, the power of 13, where you understand this concept, you become the full totality of this being we are in, mind, body, and soul, the space we are in, the mind we are in, atmosphere, and the body, the environment, but putting it within context so you can have a better understanding of what's actually going on, to know that here's where you can have eyes everywhere without you being there. Here's where you can feel everything of the world without you being there. Here's how you can see things coming when it's a mile away, because you're seeing things through the holy, the eyes of the great spirit, and it's dealing with greater things. And when you put that in small seeds and packed it and germinate it for your personal fruit, you get to bring some better way of going about something, negative or positive, for other individuals that's blood cells within this being, to make sure we have a healthy running ecosystem, being the actual blood of the nerve system itself. So you know you're creating a mind, and it condense and become fleshly fluids. And then for the most part, that's mind, atmosphere, fleshly fluids, environment. So when you think about, we're 12 minutes in, before we get into it, I wanted to help people get clear on the mind. Look at yourself like this. You have thoughts. They're condensing and becoming fleshly fluids. Then the fleshly fluids condense. And then for the most part, here's the thing. What is your body made out of? Water. So your body, the blood cells inside of you may not see you in form. They just know it's something fluid that they're moving along with. So the whole body representation of the water inside your body for your blood cells, whole representation would be the earth element. You know what I'm saying? All the way to the heart, that everybody is coming out of the waters to spread out. And you go too far out, you just go into the waters. And then the sky, right? The four corners is allowing us to analyze the full cycle of the mind. See what I'm saying? So for the most part, this helps you understand the mind, less dense, atmosphere, condense and become the fleshly fluids within the earth that you're walking on, and all the water, the filling of it and stuff, the heart. And then for the most part, all the bodies of water, right? As a full totality, there's 5 Pacifics. There's 5 oceans, main oceans. As the you being inside, but you developing your imagination without a bias, and it's most natural with the holy imagination. And then you could kind of come up with a piece from your comprehension of the great earth from the perspective of the great chief spirit we're in, to actually see it from your personal spirit. And then for the most part, you will be able to see the 3 layers of life and actually an absolute way of how things are supposed to go when it comes to the mind, the fleshly fluid, and you being inside of the body, that outside it'll be all the water, all the bodies of water together in action, as if your blood cells was outside of you. They'll look at it like it's all the bodies of water. And if they was outside of you, they'll see all the bodies of water as an entity in that space. And the water is fulfilling that space as a body that got created from the mind, the atmosphere. You know what I'm saying? So it's the spirit in the space, creating a mind to fulfill it, an atmosphere that condense and become the fleshly fluids, and AKA that's the body that's made out of water. You know what I'm saying? That fire water. Now you do the same thing as a spirit. You start to think, it condense from your mind state and become a brain, blood, more fluids coming down. That's why more fluids. I mean, you could be up underwater with your lower chakras and organs longer than upper and stuff like that. So that's giving you a concept of atmosphere condensing and becoming fleshly fluids. And all the physical forms is inside, that building layers outside of itself, that from the inside out, it'd just be water. You know what I'm saying? Without your perception of understanding where things going to go, unless you're tapped into the mind, the same way you do with yourself, the same way you could do that on the holy holy, and then understand the kind of being that we are in. That takes us into this being a matrix, aka the mind. So the matrix is considered the mind, and the one is considered the pineal gland, aka what brings the both worlds together. So from the mind atmosphere, its first condensity layer, the sun. Then the next condensity layer, clouds, and all the fleshly fluids, the atmosphere, the environment, and all the things that come out of the water and the land and stuff. And the representation is like the less dense form that represent the formless and could be a representation for the form. So here's where we get into the less dense world, the mind, the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension. You know what I'm saying? And then that takes us into the matrix itself. Then once it condenses, the land itself becomes the motherboard. Now the main motherboard is here in America. You see what I'm saying? When you get the knowledge of the heart and the spirituality and the connection to the land, not just not caring about the land and you want to just go run somewhere else to another land. You know what I'm saying? So here's where God's children main blood cells get developed, and where all other blood cells start to transmute to become the beat. And then for the most part, that takes everybody into understanding the less dense layers, the holy ones, the lighter bodies. And then you could become those atmospherical beings, Atmos DAs, Atmos DAP, Atmos DA, which you could be a personal one, a singular one. And all that work as a union to become a greater form than the actual heart. And then we can start emanating from the inside out, creating a world that our organs could survive in once we become all the plants and the bugs and the creatures there, by emanating outside of the Great Spirit, the Great Chief, creating birth in multiple ways: mental orgasm, heart orgasms, and sexual orgasms. And these are the three layers of densities you could take forms in. So you could take forms that fly, forms that's bacteria, forms, each particle of the air condense into the everything that walked the land, and start your washing machine cycle in a more expanded world. That's what I'm saying. So it'd be this world, but this world would just be contained with that. You know what I'm saying? So we always getting out of something and using what we just got out of as a lesser form or a stepping stool to help us with the new form that we're making. The same way that you have more conviction with your root chakra than your mind and things of that nature. That one is a little bit more childish. So that one cares more about belief. The root chakra cares more about knowing. And a lot of things that it already know is still animalistic. And a lot of things that the mind don't know is what keeps it childish or fast or all over the place and hard to construct on one thing that the root chakra is able to do, and use the other mentalities for it to be successful, to the point that it's successful just for your own subjective personal desires, not necessarily successful in synchronizing it into relatability in some way, shape, or form. So this takes us into concepts of knowing your own mind, the ecosystem, and then you can understand it's playing out in the same way outside of you. So even the directions of things allows you to know how a person coming, or a circumstance is coming, or a situation that you're dealing with, even if it's just right in front of you. You know if it's hitting you from behind, you know if it's hitting you from the side, you know if it's blindsiding you, you know if it's indirect, and you'll be able to get all these angles together, regardless of what's being presented to you within the white or the light magic, utilized within the dark or the black magic, and be able to see these things for what they are. So when we start to talk about the four, let's talk about the okay, we're 12 minutes in. Now we're gonna talk about the sky, right? And let me go ahead and get this like going on too. It's like they just use their computers sometimes too, that don't have anything to do with the topic. So it's just them and their government failing. Let me see. Let's get him out of here. Let's get a lot of these people out of here real quick. All right. So So when we get into the mind, right? So that's dealing with the sky. So for the most part, now four corners represent a cycle and something not being linear, but us squaring out the circle. So we know it's indirect. We know it's a cycle, not up, down, and something going around. Y'all think the sun is as high as peak. Anytime y'all hear somebody talking like that, that's a distraction or whatever the case may be. So for the most part, we know it's a cycle. And then that takes us into the understanding how the mind works that condense as multiple thoughts, many suns, death, birth, death, birth, death, birth. And for the most part, each transition of the sun and moon and its travel as the first condensity version of the atmosphere to let us know what direction the atmosphere is going as a mass macro atmosphere. And then that's condensing and becoming the water. But for the most part, is this helping you understand the cycle and squaring out the circle? That's the actual holy aspect of it. It has nothing to do with no one's cult or practice if they talking about a square and standing on a square and magic circles and stuff like that. These people are lost in other people's culture and going to hell. When we start to talk about just the concept itself, right? We're talking about logically understanding a circumference and outlining it out, and then you understanding that from your own perspective, not it being some type of magic trick you do for money or something like that. That's dumb. You know what I'm saying? We didn't talk about that. We talking about understanding. We make mentalities that bend in and become well-oiled running machine organs. Not I know some esoteric knowledge that I can manifest some shit the government created. Like half of the shit y'all trying to use magic to manifest is shit we created for settlers to even come over here and want to trade with us. Like these, y'all give importance to things y'all don't even know how to go outside and do naturally, and it's some natural thing. You know what I'm saying? So y'all create spookism around y'all lack of ability to act out white man qualities, making money off things that we ain't really supposed to be making money off. You see what I'm saying? So that's one where it comes in. 99 to 100% of what y'all consider magic, and if you get online and type in magic, especially on YouTube or TikTok or whatever, or witchcraft or any type of trick, it's always going to be about money. It's always going to be about shit that white man playing a trick on people. White man took something that was natural and made people start being prayer warriors about it and shit like that. So that's all false. There is no such thing as manifesting nothing. You know what I'm saying? You materialize, and manifesting is based upon your ability. And you can have the ability to create something that everybody think they can just sit around and do a magic trick to manifest. That's like stupid. You know what I'm saying? A person would be like, I need to manifest a car. It wouldn't be no cars if humans ain't getting up, working, and building one. So I'm saying, so you got to understand common sense before people get lost and shit, and then they probably get some Jesuit watching them or something like that and do a psyop on them and shit, and to start playing on their life. But for the most part, here's the thing: when we start talking about this itself, this help you understand things like that. So it puts you in a proper perspective of the winds, the four angles, aka the angels, squaring out the circle of and expanding it, aka controlling the hands of time to tell us what cycle that we're going through. So if the atmosphere going a certain way, and if it's going through an expanded way during that cycle and that year, the first condensities, mother, father, aka the sun and moon, going to be in those distances and positions and differ on a more macro scale than it was 4 to 7 to 7 to 21 to 28 years later. Each one's every time they get things like that, in that type of cycle, we see what we see on a micro scale, on a macro scale, and that let us know if younger or more adult main star player spirits is coming back or not. You know what I'm saying? Because when we going through more expanded cycles, those spirits is more experienced because they've been through here through lesser cycles. So when they come back to implode it to get everybody back on an expanded cycle, it's kind of just a representation of what you see me doing. I'm saying, so we always did this. So when it gets into mound building and stuff like that, these are things we did by communion and shaping the land and starting to put things into place. So the way that the season go, the atmosphere, it condense and become the environment, the water flow, and the water flow move the earth structure in that magnitude. You see what I'm saying? So this was ancient, which y'all want to consider magic that they took from us because it helped the ability of us building our structures in the world how it was over here to make them even see it as the new world. And what is this type shit? Kings and all this shit and all this type of governmental type stuff. So even when we getting into like the steps of government, they got that from us. They got that from Haudenosaunee, Aztecs, the damn Incas, and how we ran all of our government shit over here from the central, southern to the North America. So they're just copying everything. It ain't one thing that they're not copying. You know what I'm saying? Now, but this is why also you can't see them be that representation themselves, because they don't know how to really do it. So it's a plagiarizing concept of it. And let me just make a movie and hide and think I'm like that in real life, but behind closed doors. You know what I'm saying? Thank you so much for the Cashapp Theo Anderson. I appreciate that from Walmart. I'm saying, even though y'all love green and sigh out names and stuff, but for the most part, but when you look at it within that context, it's talking about the four corners. So it's talking about just the angles before it condensed. So if something do a full cycle, the circle, and you square it out, each angle and time frame, right? Then that's you logically seeing a mechanism. And the mechanism is showing you how the atmosphere condense and become another layer. So that gives us the sun and the moon. The nervous system being able to spring off. So that's like a brain. You know what I'm saying? So for the most part, it's organ. So the things that come from, you could say this is pseudo, right? So swipe the word brain because you lost in English terms, right? What are you? An organ, right? What do you need to survive? The sun, right? So what is your body? Water, right? What do you need to survive? Water, right? So if you need the thing you created, you are the thing, an organ. Now you might get, for lack of better terms, well, what made me think I created it? Whether you believe you created it or not, you're a part of something. You're a part of the system that create organs, bitch. So if you know when you think it condense and become adrenaline, then you know that you in that process of making fleshly fluids. So it's allowing you to understand you have a micro version in your own particular space within this great space we in. So this separates spaces. Now, so that lets you know you have your space, then you're in a great space, and then there's an absolute space that all the great spaces are in, and you just a smaller representation of that being inside one with your own space. So I'm saying, so this is where the concept of reflection come from, and whoever best reflect the mind in the sky, but you do it for real, you mentally make those type of organ well-oiled running machines. So your spirit is in that space other than other spirits in other spaces. So you end up being the best look representation of the thing too. You see what I'm saying? So when your spirit get older, your physical forms get younger or live. So understanding this concept, you'll be able to live for a good couple 100 years. You don't even have to, you won't live. When you die, you learn how to die within this body but make another form. So the way y'all didn't got so lost in the density how we used to do it, you won't understand what that means. So now we're so far along, this how it plays out. Your spirit is infinite, but you're able to have that size where every new mind and body you come in the washing machine cycle has the ability to understand the previous mind it created from that size of a spirit that it went through. So you're able to use the new mind to attach memories to represent, to make it make sense in the current one about previous circumstances that only the spirit that actually went through those birth, life, deterioration, expiration, death experiences will be able to do it. So you took many forms and be born just like everybody else, but you sustained the ability to create the memory, not stay in a memory. Just had a spiritual space that know that this size, when I'm creating a pulse of everything I'm inside of with expansion and contraction, this size right here always make those previous mind states I was in when I was just at that layer and doing it smaller. So you see what I'm saying? So now you're becoming an adult spirit. So anytime you go in a previous form, you're only there to teach others how to implode it, because you know that the seed starts with the mind, and that can just become the next organ. Teamwork makes the dream work, makes that world. So we need leave no one behind type energy. So it's expanding, not linear. So it's like we take everything that we did from a subjective, make it some type of one thing, like a seed, even though we all together in that seed, then we all die out that body and mind, and that previous atmosphere and environment end up being within the new one we're making around it as a layer that represent more or less density. And then we take those forms, and then the previous one end up being something that we thought was important, and it now is just something like a kneecap, where previously it probably was the heart. Now we expanded out of it, it just become the kneecap, and we on to making something else, like something to match that more. You get what I'm saying? So that's how we're coming in and out of ourselves. And it's the creation of parents and us being in the great spirit as one, and seeing both sides inside of this being as masculine and feminine, and through the holy ones creating allegories that represent us to let us know how these play out. So the many great chiefs and the many great saints and women. And then for the most part, takes us into how things may be conducted from our limited understanding, that the being we in may understand a little bit more than us, but have to gain that understanding also amongst the beings that's around in the world and the great earth. So you got the holy, our earth, and then the earth we in, teamwork makes the dream work. Then the holy, the holy one's earth, we in one person, and it's doing the same thing amongst others, but everybody a little bit more closer to being one of a kind, right? So things is more pure in that energy. And then they're all in one world that we all doing the same thing, trying to understand the absolute way of that one. So we call that the big man. You know what I'm saying? The big man, the mesabi. So that'd be like the big man. So that formulate in his most lightest stage towards the east. So that'd be the white bearded man. So a lot of Washishu came over here, took that and put themselves, like we was talking about them. When you get that information, a lot of stuff we talking about don't have nothing, probably everything, don't be having nothing to do with them. The sun, after it's in its morning star stage, right, is in High Priestess Aaron. So it's in a circumstance where it's in its white, or it's in its new moon stage, because the sun has the same concept as the moon, but we see it on a slower process. So this become the hair, because we're looking at this as the less dense, or the dead blood cell coming into density. So this is the white hair. So this will be someone that have already taken a cycle, and anyone that come after that will be able to witness that. So we look at that like the white bearded, and since it's a thought, a logic, it's a man. So the white bearded man, and anytime it's taking transitions, this is the clothing it wear, and the story is going, and the other holy ones is dealing with as the many different forms, like the many different sides of you, and you to have a masculine and feminine, for us to have a better connection of how to equalize that as a seed that we germinate once we do that, and look outwardly from the collection of that being an all one. And then that allows us to see things through the holy from our limited comprehension. So wherever we wrong, we still right. So it's about crushing multiple things in to make it one thing, and then implode out of it, so that one thing becomes the new concept with the all the previous things encapsulated with it to implode it. You know what I'm saying? So just bringing everything into a union and creating an orgasm, bringing everything into a union and creating some type of expansion out. So this is how we make a seed, multiple thoughts, it condense and become a fleshly fluid, and then germinate, aka you expressing that thought, you taking action on that thought. You know what I'm saying? That, and then it's get ready to grow the outcome, the external world, other thought forms, and other people interacting with it. How does it start to affect? And then you'll be able to see if you an invasive species or not, based upon you creating yourself out of the same ecosystem, but you not from the same location as a particular atmosphere and water flow and environment, the direction is going. So you come with the way you was made, with the same substance in another area, with the same substance that's made in a different direction of it. So it become a fight for the same substance, but done in different ways. And since one is not in its natural habitat, it's going to be poisonous to the habitat it went in. You know what I'm saying? So the habitat it went in might start getting funky with the water that was always there, while the one is in survival mode needing the water and taking the water from everything else to survive in the first place while still being sick anyway. And this is where poisonous energy comes from. The ability to not think properly. The ability to not think with nature. To not think and go with the flow. To be in the least resistance as the atmosphere above waters to condense to become the below waters actual flow. So that takes us into the heart. All the fleshly fluids you within that condense from the atmosphere and the sun and moon and become the goddamn environment. So this is the heart. The land represents the heart. And then there's the physical representations of the four corners now. So you get the Americas, you get Australian, you get Africa, and you get Asia, right? So this is knowledge that we had without even traveling. We used to travel to and go to the waters in this point and call it a name. So this is how we name Africa without being in Africa. Britain Carter taking that name and actually start calling Africa after they got colonized and made everybody who was speaking their shit and calling it what they want to call it, and made them stop doing it. You know what I'm saying? Because in their language, it would have been Africa. It would have been Africa. Because even in their Latin, they pronunciation with A, hey. You know what I'm saying? Our pronunciation with the letter A is ah. You know what I'm saying? So it'll be ah, and then you add H and take it back. Ah. So that's what back you. And ah, and whatever you bring it in into direction. If it's ah, he, hey, ha, ho. You know what I'm saying? And, or ah, pa, ta, ka, cha, ma, ta. That's letting you know what you're describing, what backs you. You know what I'm saying? If it's pat, something hard. If it's ma, that's mama waters. So if you came across a Massasoit, that's someone who was a chief sachem over a riverfront. Or a Raktaswa, that's someone who cleansed the waterfront to make sure there ain't no negative energies coming in mentally, physically, or you know what I'm saying? Then when you get into the Southwest, their name's going to be more correlated with ka, a pa, a ta, or a tita, or a tichaka, or something like that to represent a chief, or amnesia. You know what I'm saying? Amnesia, right? So that's going to be something that represent what backs you. Maybe a mountain back you, maybe a tree back you. You know what I'm saying, or something like that. Other than you being closer to river where you was probably born. You probably was born by a wigwam or by a mound or like a Pueblo builder. So the name and then the location is going to be correlated with that. So to help you understand that too, when we even creating names, so it ain't a different language. If I'm a Raktaswa, right, because that's the South Carolina rivers and stuff like that, I will be able to go into the Colorado all the way to the West Coast, and if they say a name that they name their chief, I will understand that in my mind. Not me being a settler and saying, oh, they must be speaking a different language. This is why they don't understand why we be having different names describing the same tradition, describing the same thought process. Or here they gonna talk about they from the sky again or something like that. But why they got this? But why point to the same thing? So they just had a starting point of thinking it's a different language. So when they plagiarized it, it became what y'all calling some prayer warrior language, Hebrew. You know what I'm saying, or some goddamn shit. So so the Hebrew is mainly based on Midwest and West Coast, and Greek is mainly based on their interactions with the East Coast Native Americans, us East Coast Native Americans. So Greek is like Algonquian and all this type of shit. Hebrew is like Lakota, a lot of the California languages and stuff like that, and Mexico. And then you put them all together and things of that nature. And then you get this mixture of it now, Greek and Hebrew, and you don't know which one is first. But it's just a whole bunch of shit that represent our culture because they didn't have no God. They shit was straight colonizing. When we start telling them our culture and our language and our written down shit, they just took it from us as time went on as another tactic to claim native. You know what I'm saying? So you understand that the heart too. So when it comes into the mind condensing and becoming the heart, the lands and the four corners represent the four corners above. So as above, the four main pockets, before we get into each position, you have east, the great news, east, north, west, south. You know what I'm saying? Even though you ain't spelled north, the news, but they just mixed it around. North, east, south, west for the things that go in their favor. But for the most part, the sun on the east, as above, the mind condensed into the great chief YEHOWAAH on that geographical location to become the many holy ones and the forefathers there, to become the four mothers there and bring out the spirits to make a form and be blood cells. So that's the phenotype, how that sun and atmosphere and land get derived to make all the creatures there, that all y'all's creatures that ain't nowhere else. So that includes humans. Humans the only people that be getting lost into other types of circumstances when reality goes beyond science and people don't like to look at reality first. You know what I'm saying? Now, when you get to east, that will be Australia and far east. And then when you get to the smearing, far east, the water cycle start to go towards north, you get Africa, right? And then once you go towards north and then start to try to come west and things of that nature, you get Asia. And then once you go west and then you get into the Antarctica and stuff like that, that's the southern, you come into over here, the Americas. So that's the four pockets as above, condensing as below to make all the blood cells relative to these lands. You know what I'm saying? So continent is just a group of bodies, land masses, whether they're connected or not, that separate it from another large body of water. So the only thing we have separate bodies of water here, same way everywhere else got. But the main large things that we are parking out as for through this 5-pointed being washing machine cycle, the 5 Pacific Oceans, right? Central, Southern, and North America is one thing, even if it looked like it's water between. So that's like the Caribbeans and stuff like that. Then the next body of water that separate us is our neighbors, right? That's Europe, Australia, right? So they're closer to us than Africa. So here's where you get the triad. So once you come on the west, Antarctica south, boom, you get ready to get Australia east. Then they go a little bit north, Africa. Then through there, they can make exchange deals between Arabs and other people and Negro tribes with Asia, as from the north going to the west. And then this why even mentally the Bering Strait Bridge don't even make sense. So whoever made that concept up, you got to say they're retarded. Because when you get into the triad, Asia is the way the land work is like different organs that represent the heart and extension. Everything from that cycle in is closer. Asia is closer to Africa. Africa is closer to Europe. Then Europe is closer to America. That little area right there is not a full cycle. So you have to look at it like a landmass. You have to look at it like this. Asia will be right here while there's a whole naked and too much distance and body of water until you get to America. But then you got America, Europe, Africa. See what I'm saying? So you got America, Europe, Africa, Asia. But the way it went out is like a banana. So if Asia is on this end of the banana and America is on this end of the banana, and you got East, Europe, getting to North Africa, then trying to come west from North Asia, but it's a banana based upon land, it's just water there, no land. So that's how they're trying to make up an imaginary story if it was land. But even if it was land, they're going to make an allegory about making us walk 40 days, 40 nights within this continent on this Tears of Trail of Tears. And they did all the other tribes like that too. They was called other tears type things, right? And just make an allegory like we're just strong enough to do that. So it's possible that they would have did that too, even if it's land. It's impossible, even if it's land. You know what I'm saying? That's dumb. For us to even go to Asia, we would take an airport that cut through Europe and could cut through Africa to end up in Asia, and it'd be a longer ride than just going to there and there. You see what I'm saying? So you got America, Central, Southern, and North America, body of water. Europe, body of water. Africa, body of water, but not as much. And then Asia, and then that's the banana. And then on the other side, ain't no land arrived yet. That's for us to create connection together as a mind that could then to become an environment that starts to connect that. We got took off that path too. But that's all water, that land, and didn't arrive yet. And if it's a cycle, it's not linear, that lets you know, even getting on a boat, or even if it was land, nobody willing to do that travel. We have been come up with easier ways. Hey, maybe we could cut here, cut there, cut there. And white man ain't write that in history. But yet, that would make more sense. See what I'm saying? Shortcuts would have became the shit. If that ever was a thing. It still wouldn't have been used. It still would have just been there, and motherfucking shortcuts would have became the shit. No one ever used the bare straight bridge. You know what I'm saying? So people believe that shit. And then it was other short type shit that really had nothing to do with that we could trade with Asia. There is signs of us trading with Asia, but it was a shortcut, and it wasn't a bare straight bridge, and it was something that they destroyed to take over the trade route. But it's not that over exaggerated story that they trying to tell y'all. Burn straight bread shit. Don't believe that shit, right? So that take you into the understanding that, oh, okay, people are trying to take people cultures based upon how these people building and make a synthetic version of it. So even the term Solomon, that's Native American. That's some Native American tribe in California. That's some Jesuit trying to colonize over there. So anytime you get a white man trying to colonize, they try to be our chief. And then that's when our language change. And then it's the language be created for them to understand it. But over time, they just take it. I'm saying they just take it. But it started as trying to understand. And so we can live amongst each other. Because they hate secrets. They got to be in your window. They got to be in your house. They got to be in your mind. They got to know what you're thinking. They got to know what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? You can't leave nothing out around them because they don't have no thought. So they just taking other people's culture and trying to blend in some type of way and develop a technology around it. But they don't have a creation of something themselves. That's why they always at that starting point. Now, when it comes into the 5-pointed being, this is the 5 oceans coming together. Just like 5 oceans coming together in Uda's star, Uda's being. So your blood cells can't see you in form. Just like a dog can't understand you when you're just making sounds. Or a cat, they start doing that. Right? So you have to use your imagination. And your imagination, it has to be the right way of imagining. And once you tap it in with the holy, you'll start to see a small representation of the absolute way through the eyes of the holy being that you in. And with your own holy, you'll have a more proper perspective. So even when you're wrong, you're still right. Something that you're doing is still more in sync and more relatable. Even if it's within context of belief. A person would rather believe that than something else somebody kick it. You know what I'm saying? So you're always on the path of more right. So you're closer to anything greater than you. And anybody that's outside of that concept, right, you don't need to be listening to them because they don't make no sense. And it's something that's justified through some singular thing now and it got something to do with them. And nothing that can necessarily help all. So when we get into the 5 C's, right, the Atlantic, Pacific, it's just let you know, right? It's like a 13 energy, right? 4 corners of the world, 4 bodies of continents, and the 5-pointed being that we are inside of to understand each 4 has a constellation of masculine, feminine. So they like just 2 things in general inside of this one 5-pointed being, aka this body of water we in. So we're just floating and being on the bodies and inside the blood of water. and it raining and clouds, that's inside the water. It's inside the organs. We're inside the body, the heart. Think you walking on land and shit. But the mind itself is that condensing it. So that's what we consider the sky. So that condensing. And then when the mind condense and become the four corners physically, that's all the body and the nerve system. And then the being we in as a person is moving around. It's just all the five bodies of water together that these things within condense that we inside of. So this gives you a better perspective of we inside of a person and how your blood cells may see you if they're intelligent enough. But if I'm outside of you as a blood cell, the pineal gland, let's say you're another spirit inside of another blood cell around caring about maybe the root chakra, and I pass this knowledge down to you in the spiritual world, now you got a better idea to see things through me. And then I'm the filtering system that's seeing things through YEHOWAAH. The YEHOWAAH is the closest way that we'll be able to understand how to do things in the absolute way when it comes to taking a beauty path. See what I'm saying? So that's how you kind of look. Thank you so much for the Cashapp Pots. Appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. So it kind of helps us understand how to build natural well oil running machines that live for like 400 years. 445 years plus and things of that nature. So you also understand in the full totality. You're in full control from your own subjective perspective of the mind, body, and the space that this being is in from its own perspective. Like you got your space on observer, mind that you in and body that you in, and you're trying to help others see things from your perspective. So now you get that natural quality of how you move. Your emotional energy condensing and becoming blood and your adrenaline and where you're moving at and things of that nature. So getting into the mind help us understand where we're looking at from our own perspective inside the body. So the season we in represent where we're looking through our own glasses, what area of the body from being inside the heart. You know what I'm saying? So facing east, we're looking at the mind. You know what I'm saying? Facing north is like the mind and or the brain looking in the sky or some stuff like that. But it's just like the brain. You know what I'm saying? So it's like east is the brain, right? North is outside the brain. So it's the hidden pillar. So we just think we see in space, but it's space between this being and other beings, like a space between me and you. And we built layers between us as minds and bodies. And then the atmosphere we're fulfilling as teamwork makes the dream work. So it play out as a slower process that we're calling evolution, but it's creation, evolution. Creation, mutation, evolution. We create something, it connects together and mutate, and it evolve into something beautiful, an organ. You know what I'm saying? And then now, so from that perspective, understanding the mind is understanding the heart, right? Because it condense and become the earth and the blood that we're inside of, that we need, water, and atmosphere, condensity version of it. So for the most part, that's the heart and the land that we're walking on and stuff like that. And then that's in something. The land is within the water. Your heart is within your body and blood. And it pumps it through it, and it needs it to survive and things of that nature. So I'm saying, so when you're looking through the mind, you're seeing what area of the body we're looking at, and those natures we have to work as blood cells to conduct the best way of going about it. Mentally, that's the atmosphere we're making teamwork makes the dream work. The breath of the Great Spirit, Father's breath, and then the environment, how we're conducting an environment to make it more relatable or more in sync. That makes this person we in a well-oiled running machine, and we know how to make our own organs well-oiled running machines, right? So each season we in represent where we're looking at in the body, not always where the Great Spirit is looking at to go through experiences. Same way you're born as a walking snapshot, going through many other snapshots, aka other days and weeks, and your energy have to interact with an outside energy. You know what I'm saying? So you have to use your own personal energy to come back to outside influences that may be in a different cycle, a different influence, a different interaction, a different response, a different action you have to take. So then we start to see how the body is a pulse. You know what I'm saying? Expansion, spring, summer, condensing, fall, winter. That's a pulse. To us, we see it as birth, life, deterioration, death. On a greater scale, that's breathe out, breathe in. Breathe out, spring, summer, breathe in, fall, winter. You know what I'm saying? Breathe out, spring, summer. Breathe in, fall away. You're connected with YEHOWAAH now. You're one with YEHOWAAH. You, if you like me, you'll be able to go to the eyeball because I'm the pineal gland. I go to the eyeball and I'm looking around. You know what I'm saying? I start seeing who I'm gonna throw in the fire, who gonna be in hell, what domestic animals is there. Oh, I'm cleaning up. I'm cleaning shit up. You know what I'm saying? So all y'all get the idea, pass down here and clean up. Hopefully, YEHOWAAH don't gotta take a shit no more. To y'all, that's like organ implosion and spirit evaporation and dead blood cells going out the ass and never existing again somewhere. You know what I'm saying? It's going back into some, you know what I'm saying? But for the bosom. But then once you start to look at the 5 C's, it's letting you know it's a cycle. So that cycle on a greater scale is representing birth, life, deterioration, death, spring, summer, fall, winter, right? It ain't linear. Something else after that. You know what I'm saying? So when we get into the water ain't going out there and out there. No, the water is a cycle and it's a limit. The limit is if you go far east, it ain't you reaching the edge of the universe and there's something out there. It's you reaching the less dense layer of all the atmosphere crushing into one pocket that we call far east, that you're in a cool spot. So at a distance, this is what the sun appear to be. It's just like if you go close to it, it won't be no light at all. It's just like an extreme hurricane, thunderstorms, and that was the above the waters that flood the world. The less dense becoming heavier dense, and the waters flooding the world. And then for the most part, that's the blood for us, but outside, that's this being born. You know what I'm saying? That's this being starting to live a life that we're in. So we live something like that after it. So if you got a life, if you can experience life, you know you within something that experienced life. If you can experience death, you know you within something that experienced death. So that separates you from thinking the being we in is the great spirit, but the being we in, you're a blood cell as a representation of what could be possible for you and to be amongst the holy ones and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Because we know that you just being what you are, we don't all live in you. But we know that we can't get left in infinite regress either. We can't get caught in infinite regress. And if we know we have a concept of one experiencing a cycle of 3, then that takes us back into 13 again. You know what I'm saying? Or the 1 and the 3, where 1 make forms that play in mechanism cycles of 3. You know what I'm saying? So we got that concept of being aware, then that creates a mind. It condensing, that creating a body. But you know you didn't have a mind and body before you did that. So what is that? And creating a concept of that, of the nothing. And then that becomes you being a spirit, creating a mind, and the mind mimic the spirit, and that mind condense and become a body, and the body mimics the mind. So you're always trying to create a world that mimic nothing, create something out of nothing. If your spirit is nothing and it created something, awareness is going to want to be like nothing. But since awareness is something, then the experience going to lack infinite. It's going to lack something. It's going to lack, and for the most part, that lack is nothing at all. It's no thing, aka it's going to fail to be one of a kind once it start that. So you're always trying to create a form where it become kind of like what they constant, not constant distance, but a contradiction. You're trying to make a form that can do things one of a kind while creating a kind. So as spirits, we're oxymorons. And so this is why we need to take our imperfections, what is that? To try to perfect it. Create a way that's most relatable and in sync while doing that. So therefore, you don't have to look at it like it's something we fail in. And you don't have to look at it like it's something we need to make out of heaven. You need to look at it like it's just life itself. And when you do it the right way on a beauty path, you get the right results. So this is why in life, no matter what you're dealing with, there's a right way to do it. So that's a cycle. That's telling you it ain't linear. When there's a right way to do something, there may be another way to do it that's indifferent than the previous time, and that's still right. You don't get that in existence. If we all had to swim across the river, there's only swimming. There is no other way. Regardless if you get synthetic boats or whatever the case may be, we still going across the river, and you either going to get across or you ain't. See what I'm saying? How it's done is your own personal perspective, but you didn't create the scenario of having to get across water in the first place, Or you would have been somewhere saying, I don't want it. I don't want life to have situations where I got to get across water. I don't want life. And if God told y'all everything and told y'all how to not get to hell, people who are hell bound will automatically come up with a narcissistic concept. Well, since God told us this, then I'm going to make sure that I don't go there and I can still practice my I will never tell. You see what I'm saying? So you have to understand on the spiritual perspective, we make things, but the ability to make things is what we're interacting out of or acting after something. Not you always coming from the same place, or not you always coming. You know what I'm saying? You and an alligator both could think. That don't mean you and an alligator come from the same spirit root race. You see what I'm saying? So there's something we all do in common. Think. That don't mean thought come from somewhere and then we all didn't start thinking until we got that thing from that. No, it's just we have the ability to think. And since you're within something, since it thought, you got the ability to think too. But if that thing was thinking before you or thinking in another way, just because we both got the ability to think, don't mean your thoughts is in line with that thought. So once you get out your own ego and know that we ain't all inside of you and know that everything is a thought, then you know that you got to step outside yourself to know that your thought got to be in sync with another thought, whether that thought is in a body or not, to tell you that, or whether that thought is around you to tell you that. That thought figured out how to swim across that river before you. You just know there's a river there, and for you to survive, you got to swim across there. And when you do it, don't think you was the first person that did it, because we don't all live in you. So obviously there was something there before you that swept across it and probably know how to swim a little better than you. You know what I'm saying? And things of that nature. So you just need to know, if I sit and come up with the best imagination of how I could get across here, and then we got live examples of someone who's just like you, who can't get across there, and let's say at these early stages, you learn how to swim, and then you can start to teach others how to swim, because you know there's examples of, if you can't swim, you can't get across the river. Now you have to get out your ego, because now you got to be like, did I come up with this idea myself, or did this was some pre-existing thing that I developed an intelligent with a holy absolute, when I'm imagining the right way, that allowed me to develop the right actions the right way, that I know that there's a such thing in this existence, that there's a right and wrong way to do something before I even get into what's good and bad. Because sometimes you might have to do bad, and that's the right thing to do to get that bully to stop from spitting spitballs in the back of your head when you're trying to get an A in science class. So when you understand that, right, you like, all right, for me to get an A in science class anyway, somebody had to create the curriculum of science for me to know this is what it takes to get an A, for me to see that other people not doing that to fail. I don't know this thing around me, but I know I need to swim, and I know I need to learn how to swim because there's other people around me who didn't learn how to swim, aka who getting bad grades, gonna fail, aka who don't know how to swim, gonna drown. So in this broader context, God got to be the teacher. See what I'm saying? Because I'm thinking broader now. And for the most part, if I can sync my imagination with that, and I get a more relatable and sync outcome, I made it across the river. And if I teach someone else who didn't know how to do it, they get across the river too. But none of us made a river as a concept for us to have to get across. So we know we weren't in at the round table discussing gas prices. Yet there's a concept of, if we do this the right way, and if we do it the wrong way, that still holds what's going to be the outcome. Then for the most part, that's being tapped in. And if you figured out a right way to do something, there was something that done something before you that had to do it the right way and didn't do it the wrong way, for you to be in something, to have to figure out you got to do something the right way and not the wrong way. And since we don't all live in you, what does that mean? We think our thoughts after something else. So if you ain't getting in sync, you going to hell. You see what I'm saying? That's what y'all got to learn. But flight boss, bitch, you know, for sure. You're not listening to the Mind of an Antares Moon. I'm the Royal Archangel Uriel, and I'm here to carry out God duties and motherfucking responsibilities. I'm trying to figure out what mile too, so we can start next week on the mile meet. But for the most part, and then we're gonna just do that all summer. But understand, when we start to talk about something outside of you, there's a way of doing something. And if you do it, for the most part, let's say you want your business to grow. Pardon me. Start doing something that deals with the growth energy itself. Whether you got a plant, whether you got an idea, a drawing, it could be something simple that you are capable of before you shoot too far for the stars, like an extreme business goal. Let that be the buildup. Start growing something small. It'll lead you to having different ideas that you're building on that ultimately you thinking one thing ain't connected to the other, but all of these will be different openings and stargates and information that all add on to what you're trying to grow like a business. And before you know it, you reach your destination from point A to point B way faster than someone lost in Walt Disney and distractions. So y'all keep that in mind. I love all y'all from the bottom of my heart. And y'all stay spiritually protected.